Think about this for a minute, and it's that the squatter of the United States demands that you tell the acting attorney general to get rid of a special prosecutor, but not just any special prosecutor, but the one investigating the campaign that got the squatter elected in the first place. But how would you feel about that? Um, Frustrated, perturbed, and trapped. This is how the former White House counsel Don McMahon described it when the squatter Donald Trump told him for the second time to direct Rod Rosenstein to get rid of the special prosecutor at that time, the special counsel prosecutor at the time, Robert Mueller. He had revealed that this reaction and how he dealt with Trump's request in his testimony before the House Committee on the Judiciary last week. The Justice Department under Trump had blocked a subpoena for McMahon's testimony in a protracted 2-year battle in May, and the Judiciary Committee and the Biden administration finally struck a deal to allow McMahon to testify behind closed doors. Although many Americans want to put the past behind us and forego this kind of exercise, but McGahn's answers to the committee revealed truths that need telling. And mindful of the impact of Watergate and that former President Richard Nixon's attempt to control the fallout, McMahon told the committee that Trump's directives brought to mind Nixon's so-called Saturday Night Massacre. In that instance, both the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General refused Nixon's orders to fire the Special Prosecutor Archibald Cox at that time, and the guy resigned in protest, leaving the job to Solicitor the Solicitor General Robert Bork, who carried out Nixon's order. When Trump tried to get rid of Mueller, McGahn understood the risk and he recognized it could be used as evidence for obstruction of justice. He told the committee, if I, as a counsel to the squatter, called the acting attorney general and conveyed an urgent message about the need for the special counsel to not be permitted to serve because of conflicts that could cause Rosenstein to think he was being ordered to do something that he would find contrary to his oath of office. McGahn ultimately thought the wise response would be to resist and accept whatever might come his way. He said, and this seemed to be an inflection point. It was time to hit the brakes and not to make a phone call to Rod to raise the issue that the squatter had continued to raise with me. And it seemed to me that it would be easier for me to not make the call and take whatever heat or fallout that this would cause. In his testimony, McGahn revealed himself to be the kind of sober establishment figure many hoped would curb Trump's worst impulses. McGahn was a longtime denizen of a place that Trump called the Washington Swamp, and McGahn had worked at two of the most important politically connected law firms in D.C., along with the National Republican Congressional Committee and the Federal Election Commission. At the time, at the Trump White House, he was the one official who knew how things were supposed to go and kept his head, while many around him lost theirs. Some Republicans complained that McGahn had offered little new in his remarks, and that Democrats were simply relitigating issues. and that the Democrats were relitigating issues that had already been settled, which really there had not been any issues settled on that. However, the former administration was so resistant to letting officials testify before Congress that mysteries about what happened in the Trump White House are still abound. In McGahn's case, his first-hand report accomplished only two things. First, it confirmed that much of what people feared about the squatter Trump, and that he was impulsive and imprudent, which is true. Second, he showed that it was possible to blunt the effects of the squatter's behavior. Anyone who needs further proof that more awaits to be uncovered about the Trump administration need only consider the news dribbling out about the ways it tried to use the Justice Department for political ends. Chief of Staff Mark Meadows urged the department to investigate spacious claims of the voter fraud, and authorities obtained the data in communication records of reporters and the House Democrats. Of course, the urge to move on from the political trauma of the Trump years is powerful. Some experts say that traumatized people forget terrible events without even trying. But why wouldn't a traumatized country do the same? However, forgetting isn't the same as recovering. In order to do that here, we need to face what happened. And here, McGahn has provided a good example for us to follow. McGahn's testimony, while important, barely scratched the surface when it comes to the seemingly endless list of controversies and violations of norms during the Trump years. And during his term, Trump made more than 30,000 false or misleading claims, according to the Washington Post's count. The most damaging of these centered on the 2020 election, though, even though he was beaten fair and square in what the Department of Homeland Security called the most secure election in U.S. history, and Trump has insisted, without evidence, and claimed it was rife with fraud, which is a lie that undoubtedly fueled the mob attack that carried out the deadly insurrection on the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. And January 6th may stand as the most visible wound that Trump inflicted on the United States, but it was part of a long list of norm-busting and potentially law-breaking behavior. And we shouldn't forget his fucking phone calls to Georgia's Secretary of State, urging them to find enough votes to overturn the election in the Peach State. But his attempts to obstruct justice, as detailed in the Mueller report, and the way his business revealed taxpayer money and revenue from foreign governments, and of course, his attempt to withhold military aid to pressure a foreign government to interfere in the 2020 election on his benefit. But Trump couldn't be prosecuted while he was in office. So the current President Joe Biden has previously expressed his reluctance to go after the former squatter. Well, this marks Biden as a leader committed to American norms, and it aligns him with the let's just get on with it crowd. But forging ahead, without accounting for the past, however, fails to fully address the damage that Trump inflicted on our democracy. But according to a Reuters Ipsos poll conducted in May, a majority of Republicans believe Trump's lies about the election, and that so many falsely think that Trump is the true squatter. Several months into Biden's first term, tells us that the problem isn't going away anytime soon. The Justice Department's independent press inspector general took a step in the right direction on Friday when it opened up an investigation into the Trump administration's efforts to obtain the data of House Democrats and news reporters. In the meantime, congressional hearings that get to the bottom of what went down on Trump's squadancy may be another way forward. But Don McGahn proved that truth tellers can be found, and his testimony confirms that Trump wielded the power of his office with little regard. So basically, Don McGahn proved that truth tellers can be still found, and his testimony confirms that Trump wielded the power of his office with little regard for truth, democracy, and impartiality for the law, or impartiality for the law. For millions of Americans who brought into Trump's lies, we'll need a lot more of that McGahn-style truth in order to move forward from this. But yet,